everybody, and welcome to Whiskey at Work.
This is another one of your bad ideas.
This is a bad idea because I'm drinking what you paid for. Now I don't know what camera to look at. I'll look at Rob. Hi, everybody.
Knock it off. You're creeping me out.
It is Whiskey at Work. Again, in another location. It's like we're taking this place on the road anymore. We're touring with it.
It's going to be like we're in the old office. We just do one podcast in every room in the building.
We roll from one to the next. This one's going to be, okay, I've been saying this a lot, too, lately, that this one's going to be a little bit different than what we normally do.
It's going to be lovely.
First off, it's Rob and Mark. You kind of know us. Dan from Timmins Market has been on a few of these now.
Couple, one or two.
Hello, Dan. Hello. Nice to have you in here. And a guy that we met on the internet.
Uh-oh.
That's creepy.
We did not swipe right. It wasn't that kind of internet.
No, we were
Is that the way you're supposed to swipe when it's a yes?
I don't know.
Swipe right or I'm not.
You and I have been married, and Dan,
I don't know.
Much too long.
I had to tell my wife the other day that I was not on the Tinder.
Really? You had to tell her that?
Well, she was kind of asking what it was.
That seems like an
I'm
awkward.
not on it. I don't know.
Right is right, left is left.
Yeah. Is that how that goes?
Well,
that makes sense to me now, I guess.
It was a couple of months ago that Dan said, hey, Rob and Houston, there is this Facebook group called Dakota Whiskey Territory, and you guys might be interested in joining. We're like, okay.
Yeah, you remember that from the new Riff barrel pick that I got right.
It's every episode now. Dan, it's every episode, and this is all because of you.
I'm sorry.
All of it. You got it wrong. And then this is what happened.
Yep. I can be very convincing when I have to be.
So we met Gabe. It's Aldridge, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep.
You're originally from the East Coast.
Yep,
You're
Maryland.
in the United States Air Force, stationed here at the greatest Air Force base in America. Let's be honest. It is.
I don't know. He might disagree with that.
I'm not going to ask him
Not
what
now,
the best
maybe.
one is. Right. I'm not going to ask him. I'm just going to say it is.
As soon as he leaves, he might.
It is for us. And you've been here since about October, right?
It's about October, yep.
And we started.
You got here just in time for winter.
Yep,
Yeah.
just in time for the
Lucky
cold.
dog.
My wife loves it. It's a great time.
Where is your wife from originally?
She is from L.A.
Okay. So this is a
yeah.
total shock.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
yeah,
From what I hear.
a little bit different. So we were both stationed in
Traffic's better here.
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah. We were both stationed in Okinawa, Japan.
Okay.
So
That's where you met?
tropical. Yep, we
All
met
right.
there. Yeah, we were both at a joint PME, which is basically just a professional military education. She was Marine. I was Air Force. Fell in love, got married, and
How does that happen? Marine and
I
Air
don't know.
Force.
She chased me. That's what it was.
So what you're saying is that she could whoop your ass.
Oh yeah. You wouldn't know it. She's so quiet, but yeah, for sure.
But you're originally from the East Coast, right?
Yep.
Okay. Where was it?
Frederick, Maryland, which
Maryland,
is about.
that's right. Okay.
Baltimore. It's about an hour and a half
Yeah.
from Baltimore, hour and a half from DC.
All right. Well, that's where we got to know you. Was off that Facebook group, and
Dakota Whiskey Territory.
Dakota Whiskey Territory.
Did you
Yes.
talk about that already?
I did a little.
Did
I mentioned
zone
it.
out?
No, you did.
All right.
Mostly.
I don't know. You talk a lot.
So I'm glad we've got you on this finally, Gabe.
Oh,
because
yeah, absolutely.
You have been pretty impressive with nailing some of this stuff, these whiskeys and bourbons and scotches that we've been drinking. Not only from your reviews that we've read online, but the couple of times when I've actually
You would agree, right?
Absolutely.
I've actually watched you in action, thinking this is some sort of savant here with this stuff. How did you realize you had? Well, how did you realize you had? Not just an affinity for this drink, but a talent to kind of pick this stuff out. I mean, you're not old enough to be.
No, not at all.
That's what's so strange to me is usually you see these guys that are in their 60s and 70s and
Look
they're
like Houston.
come on, look at this. Where's the camera that I can show? That have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. So how did this come about for you?
Man, so my dad used to drink. He liked whiskey bourbon a lot.
Okay.
His favorite one was actually Blanton's. Funny enough.
Okay.
I know we don't want to get into that. Anyway, so no, I was just sitting at the house one night, and I was like, I don't have any passions. I don't really have any hobbies. Like, what do I need to do something. So I was like, all right, well, I like cigars, so that's cool. I was like, I need something else manly. Like, what's another manly hobby that I can do? I'm like, all right, well, cigars, whiskey, Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
So I went out and bought a bottle of Jim Beam white label, and hated it. I did not like
That's
it.
fair.
Did not like it. And I was like, all right, maybe this isn't for me. So I kept trying. I tried it over some ice. I was like, all right, this is a little better. Gave that bottle away to one of my good friends, and then I went out and bought a bottle of.
Is he still your good friend?
He is. Yeah, yeah. Well, later on he actually got into whiskey too, because I started talking to him about it. But I then bought a bottle of Bullet Rye, and I know I know we've talked about it. Like, I'm not a huge rye guy, but that was the first one where I had it, and I was like, I enjoy this. I like it. And then I just drank everything over ice for a little bit. Started with ryes and bourbons, funny enough, being in Japan. And then it got really, really easy to get the scotches and the Japanese whiskey over there.
Yeah.
And I got really involved in the culture and the history of Japanese whiskey. And I started reading about it, loving it, and tasting things while I was reading. And then one night I was at a Japanese whiskey bar in Okinawa. And I ordered, I think it was a Highland Park 18 over ice. And the bartender looked at me. He said, no. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean no? I want it over ice. He's like, no. I was like, oh, okay. Well, how do you want it? What do you think I should have? He's like, all right. So he poured it neat. Went back to my little table by myself, of course, in the corner, brooding as I do, and I just sat there, drank some whiskey, waiting for my other friends to come. And I was like, you know what? This is it. This is I love doing. Like, I just started discovering all those notes, and like I would say things to my friend, like, hey, do you get like bacon on this? And he's like, no, dude, it tastes like alcohol. I don't know what you're saying. I was like, okay, maybe it's me. And then I was like, started talking to other people who are into it, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
So
these are my people.
It just came out as a passion, something you decided that it's
100%.
Because Rob and I have talked about this a lot, and Dan, you're pretty good at this too. You're kind of you and Gabe have that same ability to sit down with a glass of whiskey and sniff it and then taste it, and then all of a sudden there's 6 different flavors that you guys can describe. Rob and I are like, yeah, that's pretty good.
By the time
I don't really care for this one.
By the time Dan gets done playing with it, mine's gone.
But it's true, and I think most people are like that. And I think sometimes when that's the fear of getting into it, is they're like, well, I'm not going to be able to pick this out. I don't know how to do it, so therefore I don't really want to try to like it, you know. And I think that scares a lot of people away, especially when it comes to Scotch. I think that's a big reason why a lot of people don't jump into it. And Rob, you're not a super fan of Scotch, and Dan, we've learned that you aren't a big fan of Scotch. Why do you think? Have you ever sat down to think about? Is it purely just how it tastes?
Yeah, I think maybe approaching Scotch wrong. The first couple times I tried it, I tried some really heavily peated Scotches.
That'll do it.
And that was definitely a big turnoff for me. The smokiness just lingered so long that it kind of overwhelmed my palate to where everything else I tried, it was Whiskey Fest the first year. I tried a Talisker 18 year, which in hindsight's not a good starting point. I learned this weekend what a better starting point would have been. But
which we'll talk about.
We will talk
higher
about
things
that.
in life.
Right.
But that Talisker 18 was just so smoky. Like, I enjoy a good cigar from time to time, but it has to be towards the end of any evening because all I can taste is the smoke the rest of the night. And that's really how that Talisker 18 left me feeling. No matter what I tasted, even if I knew it had zero smoke, it was so heavily just sticking to my palate everywhere that it kind of just ruined it for me. And so I was like,
well, that's kind of where I
Not
ended up.
truly enjoyable.
And I've given him a bad time about it, but it stays with you. I mean, even some of the lighter scotches, and then it repeats on you like nobody's business. I mean, anytime you cough or belch a little, I mean, it's coming back up with
Scotch backfire.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it's
So, and it's true, and again, I think that's why a lot of people kind of shy away from it. You know, and it's nice to, if you're going to get into Scotch, it's nice to talk to somebody that knows a lot about it, because they can definitely point you to the right. You know, this is the one.
We got to remember the culture too. I mean, here, when I got into whiskey, I was living in Japan. Over there, it's all Scotch. Like, it's all about the Scotches.
Well,
it's all about the Japanese whiskey. Whereas here, it's not as prevalent.
Well, in Japan, you know, they obviously weren't known for making whiskey in the 1700s, 1800s, and I believe it was. I did a little research on it. Somebody, one of the Captain Cooks or the Captain, I don't know, one of those famous back in the 1800s, dropped off a barrel of it in Japan and said, you know, this is what we drink, enjoy it, whatever. They fell in love with it. I think it was Scotch. and they sent over, some people to Scotland. A couple of guys individually, I think, that really started the boom in Japan.
I mean, the big boom. So there's a book, if you want to get into Japanese whiskey, it's called Japanese Whiskey Rising. Amazing book.
Oh, interesting.
And it talks about, Japanese whiskey's been around for a while. It's been constantly changed, though. I mean, it stems from World War II and tariffs and taxes and all that. But when it really started to become its own, it started from a guy named Shinjiro Tori, who started Suntory. He hired a person named Masataka Taketsuru, who trained in Scotland for years.
I couldn't pronounce his name.
For years. He trained, I forget which distillery it was, but he actually ended up marrying a Scottish woman. Her parents got pissed, so they moved back to Japan. And it was there that Shinjiro hired him. And so they were messing around. And the first, like Suntory in my mind is the dad of Japanese whiskey.
Right.
Like that is what started what we know today as Japanese whiskey. When they first put out their Japanese whiskey, it was really Scotch-like, obviously, right? Like Masataka trained in Scotland.
Yeah.
Japanese hated it. It was not floral. It was not light. It was in your face. It was punchy. They didn't like it. So Shinjiro said, no, we want you to make something lighter for the Japanese palate that we pair things with, a little bit more floral, a little bit more herbal. And that's where Yamazaki came about. And then later Hagushu or Hakushu. And then Hibiki, which is a blend of their single malts, Hakushu and Yamazaki. And then Cheetah, which is their single grain. And that's what makes up Hibiki. Well, Masataka didn't like that. He worked with him for 10 more years, but couldn't stand it. So then he went and founded what is known today as Nika. And that's Miyagikyo Yoichi, Nika from the barrel.
Right.
The little square bottle. And that's more of the smokier Scotch style of Japanese whiskey. And ever since then, it's blown up.
All right.
But those are the two big ones for
So
sure.
obviously we'll be doing a Japanese whiskey version of this too, because there's a lot to get in there.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Okay, so the reason why we wanted to do this particular episode is because both Rob and Dan are not Scotch fans. And we think, Gabe specifically, and I, felt like the Macallan Scotch might just be the one that could convince both of these guys that, hey, Scotch is amazing, okay? You're away from the Islas, the Isla island in Scotland, so you're not getting that peaty smoke, whatever. This comes from the Speyside Highland region, which is the lighter, less smoky, less peaty Scotch, which I think is where you would start. Would you agree with that, Gabe?
Yeah, I would definitely say for anyone getting into Scotch, definitely try and start with like the Speysides and the Highlands. They do make peaty Highlands. This is not one of them, for sure.
And this is actually a very special blend that is very limited, too. And Dan was gracious enough to get a couple of these bottles. Thankfully not like it. Reach out to Gabe and I and say, hey, you guys want to buy these?
That's right.
Because I'm not going to drink them or sell them or whatever. So we said, yes, absolutely. And then we thought, well, let's see if this could be the one that gets Dan to enjoy Scotch. So we've been talking long enough without drinking, which has really been irritating.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So I think we should definitely. All right, Gabe. I want you to do.
Oh no.
I want you to do your magic right now. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like fig and burnt tire, a little bit of Band-Aid. No, I'm just,
Okay. So when you approach something like this, Gabe, what's the first thing you do?
I knows it. So I mean,
Okay.
I would normally also let it sit for a little bit. Standard
we have.
rule. Yeah,
This isn't long enough?
for sure. So standard rule for me is a minute in the glass for every year in the cask. So
interesting.
Yeah, so if it's a 12-year, give it 12 minutes, 20-year, 20 minutes. But for this, yeah, this is long enough.
Okay.
So for sure, I definitely try and nose it first just to kind of get a little bit of intro. Like, what am I getting into? What is going to be, based on the nose, probably what I'm going to get the most, right? I think Dan mastered it a little bit, the kind of rolling technique, going to different nostrils a little bit.
Well, I read you're supposed to keep your mouth open when you breathe it through to get it onto your tongue.
Yep.
Isn't
People-
that how you do it?
Is
most
that
of the
that
time
right?
anyway? No, I just thought you were a mouth breather.
And I'm not well, sometimes. Depends on the weather. Really. Okay. So what are you getting then, Gabe?
I get lots of chocolate.
Okay. Which would make sense.
Yeah, I get
since-
that kind of lighter roasted coffee, maybe.
Okay, I can kind of smell the chocolate I get. I think I'm getting that, right? I think I'm
don't
smelling
have
the
any
chocolate. Well, what do
idea
you
what
get?
you're
What are you getting?
Well, when I had it Saturday, I got a lot of chocolate. I'm not getting as much of it now.
Rob wasn't supposed to drink it Saturday, but he did. Dan at least
no
held up his
one
end of the deal.
gave me the memo.
Well, this is made with the cacao bean. I believe, is part of the distillate for this, right?
Yeah, so this is part of their the Harmony collection. It's actually the first release from the Macallan group on the Harmony collection, and it was a collaboration with a chef.
Okay.
Is how they came up with the blend.
Yeah, Jordi Roca.
Jordi
Yeah.
Roca.
Is that who it is? All right.
It's the pastry chef at El Cellar de Can Roca.
And I think
Okay.
I read somewhere, which is kind of cool, all of the packaging, this box is
From the cocoa
recycled
bean.
from the
husks.
of
Yeah.
the cacao, which is really neat.
It is a really neat box. All right, now that we've smelled it, let's go ahead and finally taste it.
Yeah. Cheers, gentlemen.
I can taste. You can definitely get the chocolate.
Oh, on that back end though, exhale. That's
Exhaling.
espresso.
We got to breathe.
That's
We got to
espresso.
breathe with it too.
That's espresso. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of chocolate, a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
I already know Rob's take on it, but
Actually, I like it a lot better today than I did Saturday.
Maybe because you
that
weren't-
could have been because I
you had other drinks
had
and
4 other things
Sure.
before it or whatever. But it's nice now. I mean, it is chocolatey. I can taste the coffee that these guys are talking about.
I still don't get the coffee yet. What do you? Okay, Dan. What do you?
yeah,
What do you
lingers.
think?
I mean, it's no Macallan 25, but it's it's pretty enjoyable.
Is you think this is something that you would keep in your bar then?
You know, potentially. I think I was talking to somebody after Whiskey Fest, and I said, I have to admit that I found a few scotches that I liked on Saturday, but I think for me, when I go out to a bar, there are oftentimes I look at the back bar and there are, this is going to sound super pretentious of me, but not a ton of items that I haven't had a chance to try
Sure.
between 3 years of Whiskey Fest and
Well, you're a
trips to Louisville, own a liquor store.
and you own a liquor store, 2 of them.
Yep.
So
And so, for me, it's when I go out, I want to try something different, something unique. And so I will definitely push myself to look at the Scotch menu much closer when I go out to Spearfish Public House or something like that versus just kind of picking a go-to off the bourbon menu. And so I think that will be at least initially where I go. But there were a couple of the Macallans. I could see myself having one at home for a change of pace
sure. And
from time to time.
starting with Macallan probably isn't recommended either, only because of its price point. Macallan is not. It's probably the most expensive
Yeah.
Scotch,
It
isn't
is
it?
the Buffalo Trace of Scotch.
Well,
Yeah, but Buffalo Trace didn't used to be as expensive as it is now.
that's
The
true
antique
too.
collection or
antique collection.
regular Buffalo Trace?
I want to try it now. You're supposed to try it with chocolate too. So we went and got some chocolate down here, and I really want to see if that changes anything. So grab something from there, you guys, and see if you want to try it with there. If you don't, I get it, but I want to definitely try it with some chocolate. I think for me, when it came to Scotch, the one I found to be my absolute favorite, and I think it's really the
I was wondering how that was going to go.
it's really the Jack Daniels of Scotch is Glenfiddich. I think that's the biggest selling Scotch out of
Which one did you
Scotland.
say?
The Glenfiddich.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's like I said. It's comparable to Jack Daniels here in the United States. It's sold everywhere in Scotland. It's the biggest seller outside of Scotland, and the 14 is just my go-to anytime I'm going to drink some Scotch. Would I like to always drink rare cask Macallan or Macallan 25? Yes, I would. But that's just for very special occasions. So, what did you guys take? You took all the dark chocolate.
Yeah, you want a small
Of course,
piece?
no, that's fine. I'm going to try the toffee one.
Try the fluffy one.
I do now. That's how they describe it to me.
What I do think you should start with, if you like Macallan, you should definitely try Glendronach.
I have a bottle in my office right now.
Glendronach 12-year is, to me, like the new Macallan. It's what Macallan should be.
Really?
Yeah. But even Glendronach's starting to go the way of Macallan. It's getting a little bit more expensive. They're doing some things. I'm not crazy about the brand right now. But yeah, if you like Macallan, I think a good starting point would definitely be Glendronach too. Glendronach 12-year is pretty good.
Boy, the sweetness of chocolate changes that profoundly. I don't know how to describe it.
I think the chocolate, I don't get the chocolate as much on the whiskey anymore.
Right.
I get more of that sherry, fig, and spice now.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It
it.
brings it out a little
Yep.
sweeter. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's delicious. I mean, it really is. I don't know how you can go wrong with a Macallan Scotch to begin with. I don't think they make anything that's questionable. But I love when they take chances like this. And
Except decisions after drinking too much of it.
you know, Glenfiddich, they do their I don't know if it's by like the Fire and Ice and the they'll do their
Fire and Cane, the peated.
Fire and Cane. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Yep. That you know, I like when they take those chances. I like when they kind of go outside of the box a little bit. And you know, those companies have the time and the resources and the ability to do that sort of things, and they always seem to hit it on the head. And boy, this one does too. What sucks about it is if you're watching this and listening to it, you can't go out and buy this anywhere. Right. That's the thing that's you got to be kind of fortunate. You got to know the right people, and then you can get a couple of bottles of this. But if you ever come across it, if you ever have anybody that has some,
If you see it on a menu anywhere.
oh boy, yeah. You can't say don't try it.
I think a lot of what throws people off is just the price point too. I mean, it's when you do see it, it's about $200. It's
Right.
about $200 a bottle. And for people who are either getting into Scotch or know a little bit about Scotch, it's like, do I want to take a risk on a new series from Macallan? Like, what is it? Like, what do you mean? Like, what is
Sure.
a Harmony collection? Yeah, I mean, I would say 100%. If you see this at a bar, definitely try it because it's not going to be for everybody.
No.
That chocolate is really there. That dark espresso to me, that roasted bean, like it's not going to be everyone's go-to. But I would say they went for a certain profile. Like they went for the dark chocolate. That's
Yeah.
what they wanted to get, and they nailed it.
Well, I hope we got you a little closer, Dan.
Well, when you
to
hire a
something.
pastry chef,
Well,
and
it's
you
gonna
want
be-
chocolate, you're going to get chocolate, I bet.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Rob, even you think you kind of like this a little bit more now too? I mean, you would for a change of pace, like Dan said.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had the Macallan 25 and then went to this and went, it's not quite the same.
Well, but I mean, literally by definition, it's not the same. Just because
Right.
this is a whole other, collection
Well, and
for 'em, but-
it's one, you're Whiskey Fest, you're chasing one after the other and maybe getting a sip or two of water in between.
Right.
And then to have something as smooth and as palatable as the 25 was, and then you're adding a different, a lot more flavor to the chocolate and the espresso or the coffee onto this. It was just vastly different than the
Sure.
than the 25 and the Redbreast that we had and the.
Yeah, I think having that as the first pour set the bar pretty high.
Yeah.
Did it ever? Oh man, but it was amazing, totally amazing. Okay, we're going to have to figure out a way to do this again. We're going to have to figure out a way to do it, maybe semi-regularly over the year. And Gabe made the mistake of telling Rob and I, look, I have a vast collection of whiskey. And when I say I'm not being, this isn't hyperbole. Gabe, how many bottles do you think you have in your house right now?
Do you want me to say?
I do want you to say.
Do you want to say?
You want to admit it? is the question.
We're not making you say. Just to
I don't
make
know
sure
if my
that-
wife is listening. Probably about now around the 450 mark.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
I have a problem. But it's an awesome problem to have. And like I said,
it
that's
is.
part of the reason why I have so much, though, is because a lot of it is from what I got in Japan. And there are things there you can't get over here.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'll get it while I can, and then come over here. And if people want to try it and share it, that'd be awesome. So yeah, I'm all about it, man. This is what I love doing. This is what I love talking about.
What are the odds of you getting stationed somewhere else?
I'm here for
right
at least
now.
I'm here for at least the next 2 years.
At least the next 2
At
years.
least the next
All
2
right,
years.
let's make sure we write
Let's
that
do
down.
some math.
the
450
question is-
bottles,
Is the
700 days.
Is the bottle collection
do
going to go
this.
up or down over the next 2 years?
Well, I'm friends with Dan, so it's probably going to go up.
All right. Well, I definitely want to do this again, you guys. This is fun. Rob and I like to talk about it. We are the unprofessionals, so it's fun to talk to people that know more what they're doing. It just makes it more enjoyable, and that's what Rob and I have always talked about too on this podcast and on this show is that this always tastes the best when you're drinking with somebody else.
100%.
Absolutely. Yep.
There is sitting at home having a sip is fine, but make that your bottom
I don't
shelf
know
stuff.
if that's entirely true.
It is. It's just so much fun to drink
There's
and talk
something
about.
drinking alone.
Well,
with your thoughts.
yeah, it depends on the kind of day you have, I guess. But Gabe, thank you, man, for coming in.
absolutely.
Dan,
No,
of
thank you for
course,
having
all
me.
the time from Timmins Market.
Appreciate you both. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
guys have been a great partner with this, and I hope we're doing this forever and ever and ever. So please keep finding this that I can spend all of my money on, because I will.
Anytime, I'll gladly take it.